They were a reaction, a frantic scramble, the shock of an alarm, the immediate pull of a screen, a to-do list already shouting in my head before my eyes were even open. I was starting my day already behind. Already playing catch-up to a world that had been awake for hours, and then I changed one thing, not everything, just one thing. I took back the first hour of the day. It didn't start with a grand plan. It started with a single, quiet decision, to not let the world write the first sentence of my story. So I began to wake up just 1 hour earlier, not to do more work, not to cram in more tasks, but to remember who I was. That first hour became a sacred space, a room with a closed door before the rest of the house was awake. There was no phone, no news, no noise from the outside world. There was just the steam from a cup of tea, the soft light of a single lamp, the quiet of a world still dreaming in that space. I could just be, I could breathe, I could read a poem that fed my soul, not a headline that drained it. I could move my body in a way that felt like gratitude, not punishment. I could write in a journal, not for anyone else to see, but to simply listen to the voice I had been too busy to hear. It was in that quiet hour that I met myself again, the self that existed before the deadlines, before the expectations, before the noise. That hour didn't add more to my day. It did something far more important. It changed the quality of my entire day, because when the world finally did wake up with its emails and its demands and its chaos, it didn't meet a drained, reactive version of me. It met someone who was already full, someone who was centered, someone who had already connected with a sense of purpose and peace. I was no longer starting from a place of depletion. I was engaging from a place of presence. That single, quiet hour didn't transform my life because I was so productive. It transformed my life because it gave me back my soul before I gave it to anyone else. It taught me that the most important meeting you will ever have is the one you have with yourself, first thing in the morning. For many of us, the day does not truly begin. It attacks. It begins with a shock, the blare of an alarm, a sound synonymous with interruption and obligation. The first conscious act is often one of resistance, a groggy fumble to silence the noise, followed immediately by the glow of a screen. This device, a portal to the world's demands, instantly downloads a cascade of other people's priorities. Emails to be answered, news to be consumed, notifications to be acknowledged. Before our feet even touch the floor, our minds are already miles away, entangled in a web of reactivity. We are not authors of our day. We are its first responders, rushing to put out fires that ignited while we slept. This frantic scramble sets a neurological precedent for the hours to follow. It teaches the brain that the waking state is one of high alert, of defensiveness, of catching up. The cortisol spike that should be reserved for genuine emergency becomes the baseline. We are already behind because we have ceded the most fertile, impressionable moments of our consciousness to the external world. We have allowed the narrative of our day to be written by strangers, by algorithms, by the accumulated weight of unfinished business. In this state, we are not making choices, we are executing reactions. We are playing a perpetual losing game of catch-up, where our energy is spent managing the symptoms of a day that began on someone else's terms. This reactive start creates a foundation of depletion. We are pouring from an empty cup from the very first moment, ensuring that by midday we are running on fumes, our patience thin, our focus fragmented, and our sense of personal agency a distant memory. The day becomes something to be survived, endured, and escaped, rather than lived, shaped, and cherished. We give our freshest, most valuable energy, the quiet, creative energy of the morning, to the loudest, most draining forces, and then wonder why we feel so hollow by the afternoon. The transformation begins not by adding more to this chaotic beginning, but by installing a firewall, a buffer of silence and sovereignty that protects the fragile dawn of our consciousness from the impending invasion. The sacred space of the morning hour is not merely a physical location or a period of time. It is a deliberate and radical act of creating a psychological sanctuary. In a world engineered for constant engagement, this space is a declared demilitarized zone for the soul. The rules of this space are defined not by what you include, but by what you rigorously exclude. The phone, with its endless petitions for our attention, is the primary exile. It is the symbol of the reactive world, the conduit through which other people's agendas flow. Its absence is not a minor adjustment. It is the foundational act of the ritual. Similarly, the news and the noise from the outside world are consciously banned. This is not an act of ignorance, but one of profound self-preservation. You are refusing to let the day's chaos, over which you have little control, set the initial emotional and cognitive weather pattern of your mind. The silence that remains is not empty, it is full of potential. It is the quiet of a world still dreaming, a state of pure possibility before the solid, often limiting, realities of the day take hold. Within this protected container, the activities are chosen for their qualitative effect, not their quantitative output. The steam from the tea is a sensory anchor to the present moment. The soft light is a gentle invitation to consciousness, not a harsh demand for it. Reading a poem that fed my soul is an act of ingestion, of taking in beauty and meaning before you are asked to produce or perform. Moving the body in a way that felt like gratitude reframes physicality from a chore of maintenance to a celebration of capability. Journaling to listen to the voice I had been too busy to hear. Is the ultimate purpose to reacquaint yourself with the person who exists beneath the job titles, social roles, and accumulated responsibilities. This sacred space is where you go to remember your own name before the world starts calling you by everyone else's. The modern cult of productivity has convinced us that the value of any action is measured by its tangible output. We are conditioned to believe that an hour must be justified by a completed task, a crossed-off item, or a measurable step forward on a project plan. This mindset, when applied to the first moments of the day, is a profound corruption of the spirit. It turns the potential for renewal into just another shift on the assembly line of achievement. The transformative power of the morning routine described lies in its conscious rejection of this paradigm. Its goal is not productivity, it is presence. The activities are not chosen for what they produce, but for the state of being they cultivate within you. Reading a poem produces no report, but it nourishes the soul's capacity for wonder and connection. Sipping tea slowly and mindfully produces no revenue, but it anchors the nervous system in a state of calm awareness. Moving the body with a sense of gratitude builds no visible muscle, but it forges a deeper, more compassionate relationship with the physical self. This is the critical distinction. You are not doing in order to have, you are being in order to become. You are filling the internal reservoir from which all effective doing will later flow. When you engage in an activity to feed your soul, you are making a deposit into your emotional and spiritual bank account. You are building a reserve of peace, clarity, and centeredness. This is the antithesis of starting the day by checking email, which is an immediate withdrawal. It drains your focus, imposes external priorities, and scatters your mental energy before you've had a chance to consolidate it. The purpose of this hour is to establish the quality of your consciousness. It is to set the temperature of your inner world, cool, calm, and clear, before you step into the often overheated environment of daily demands. A day that begins with presence is a day lived with intention. A day that begins with reactive productivity is a day spent putting out fires. The former comes from a full cup, the latter from an empty one. The most significant outcome of this sacred morning practice is a fundamental shift in your starting position for the day. Most people begin from a place of depletion. They wake up already in a deficit, their mental and emotional resources having been drained by a restless night or carried over from the previous day's exhaustion. They immediately compound this deficit by reaching for their phone, initiating a rapid withdrawal of their limited attention and peace before they have even gotten out of bed. They are, in essence, bankrupt before the day's transactions have even begun. This forces them to engage with the world from a position of weakness and scarcity. Every demand feels like an imposition, every challenge feels overwhelming, and every interruption frays their already thin patience. They are trying to pour from an empty cup, and the result is a life of stress, resentment, and burnout. The morning routine reverses this entire dynamic. By dedicating the first hour to filling your own cup through silence, mindfulness, and activities that nourish your spirit, you begin the day from a place of fullness. You are not starting at zero, you are starting with a surplus. This surplus changes everything. When the emails begin to arrive and the demands start to knock, you are not meeting them from a state of frantic reactivity. You are engaging from a grounded state of proactive choice. The chaos of the outside world does not disappear, but your relationship to it is transformed. Because you are full, you can respond with patience instead of irritation. You can approach problems with creativity instead of panic. You can set boundaries with clarity instead of resentment. The challenges of the day are no longer threats to your fragile equilibrium. They are simply the landscape you navigate from the stable, well-provisioned vessel of yourself. You are no longer a victim of the day's events, but an active participant who shapes them. This is the ultimate transformation, moving from a defensive, depleted existence to an engaged, abundant life. The concept of a meeting with yourself may sound like a quaint metaphor, but it is the operational heart of this entire transformation. Throughout our lives, we are conditioned to prioritize external meetings, appointments with bosses, clients, doctors, and friends. We show up for these obligations prepared, present, and focused, understanding that they hold value and consequence. Yet, we consistently stand up the most important stakeholder of all, our own spirit. We cancel on ourselves, reschedule our well-being, and fail to prepare for the one encounter that dictates the quality of every other interaction we will have. The morning routine is that meeting. It is a non-negotiable appointment in your day planner with the core of your being. It is the time when you, the CEO of your life, sit down with your most essential employee, your consciousness, to set the agenda, align on the vision, and fortify the resolve needed to execute the day's mission. Showing up for this meeting is the ultimate act of self-respect and strategic leadership. It is where you ask the fundamental questions: what is my intention today? What energy do I wish to bring? What truly matters? This is not navel gazing, it is command and control calibration. When you skip this meeting, you are essentially sending your unprepared, fragmented self into a series of high-stakes negotiations without a brief. You are reactive, easily manipulated by external pressures, and disconnected from your own core objectives. But when you honor this appointment, you step into the world as an integrated leader. You have clarity on your priorities, a reservoir of calm to draw from, and a connection to the why that fuels your what. This daily meeting is the bedrock of intentional living. It is the practice that reminds you that you are not a passive participant in your life, but its primary architect. The most important meeting you will ever have is the one where you decide who you will be for the rest of the day. And that is a meeting worth waking up for, because its outcomes ripple through every conversation, every decision, and every moment that follows.